computer itself.
Mm-hmm. Scano, Sego, and Ni. Nice to see you. On the other end over there, Alan, white spotted horse. It's really great to be here in the space with you and everyone that will be joining us. We're a few minutes late. Actually, we're early because we were supposed to be at 5. And today was one of those days where we went back and forth and found our balance here at this time right now. And that's the beauty of technology. We get to show up when it's right for us. And we chose not to pre-record and we're here. And so really happy to be in this space again and welcoming the beautiful energies that I'm seeing here, the beautiful sunshine. Today was a beautiful day to be out and just that springtime weather coming. And I'm not sure exactly what it's like over where you are, Alan, but I'm sure you'll be able to share that with us as we travel on our journey today together in this healing colonization, which is something that you and I had been having conversations and we're growing. Our little connections, became longer connections and longer connections, and you said, hey, maybe we need to be sharing these conversations with others because the conversations were great. And so I'd like to acknowledge you and the words that you'll be sharing with us today. And again, just acknowledging having this opportunity to be here in this space with you and those of you who will be joining us later. I'm Jody Harper. I'm a co-founder of Grandmother's Voice, an organization that was started several years ago in the Halton region. I'm seeing that Alan is having a bit of difficulty, so I'll just continue to share that where I live in this community, we were trying to build community and connect with urban Indigenous people and really learn how to support each other. And as we did that, we realized that there really wasn't a lot of services and support in our region. We just hadn't reached that space and time, but the people were here, and we know this because I was here, and I really feel like if some one person is having an experience in their life, that there are others that are having similar experiences. And we're in a really beautiful time. Welcome back, Alan. We're in a really beautiful time of Indigenous people connecting with each other and reclaiming their culture and connecting to themselves. And Alan Sutherland is one of the many elders that I met on my journey of learning and connecting to my culture and supporting my community. I had met Alan through one of our other elders, Dennis Windigo, and it was a timeline that he had created that really captivated the people that we were with and in community. And so we started to build our relationship. And what's been great is Alan has been so gracious to be able to come into our community and start to share his knowledge and work that he's done with our community to really amplify and move, a lot of the work that we're doing in a good way. So again, nice to see you today.
Nice to see you too, Jody. I'll just introduce myself, okay? Last time I did this podcast, I had one of my friends corrected me on my pronunciation of my spirit name. And when I reflect on it, I was rushing it. When I was supposed to be teaching it, and I was rushing it. So I'm just gonna ground myself and say, Wabshki manasazit misitem nis nakats. Pijuni do dem ishkunani donji, Treaty 2 territory, Mishnave Sotoni. My common name is Alan Sutherland. I'm a knowledge keeper for two child welfare agencies, and I work out of my home called GNU Healing Lodge. And I'm glad to be sitting among your viewers here, Jody. It's always a pleasure.
Mm. Yeah, well, thank you so much. And that too is something, that I forget sometimes as well, is to acknowledge and share who I am, from myself, from my own ancestors, and who I am as, a mom and a wife, and my nations, and know that this work that I do is following in the footsteps of my ancestors, and from all areas. I think right now we're really in a good time that we get to acknowledge, some of these energies, the energies that sustain us, and this connectedness. And before we get into our talk, I want to just again thank you for our conversation we had earlier today. It was like a precursor to, just kind of reconnecting to um, get set up for this talk. And you just said so many things that just help ground me in this time, and I just want to acknowledge that it's really awesome, and I'm honored that I get to just share it with whoever wants to watch, because it's not just for me. The things that you share are just through me and through you, and so thank you so much for being here. uh, we have conversations people have been asking us to talk about, but we're going to start on the list because it came up twice, and it was treaties, and it was about relationships. And that's what treaties are anyway. What you've been sharing with me anyway. So, um, giving your word, these are like things that you said that just have been penetrating. I feel it in my spirit when you talk. So, if we can just, kind of jump into that and then see where the conversations take us. Start from what a treaty is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I've been doing this for over 17 years as a speaker regarding treaties here in Manitoba. Part of the treaty, and basically it's to let all Manitobans know that we're all treaty people. Because when it comes to this statement, it wasn't being taught in schools. It wasn't really being taught anywhere unless you had an interest in it, by going to university to take Native studies. And even then, it was very little. It's our people that kept it alive. It's our leadership. It's our elders that always talk about we are all treaty people. Now, when we say all, I'm talking about all Canadians. Because when I meet groups such as this, as Grandmother's Voice and others in a classroom, or even outdoors beside a fire, I always ask the basic questions, is to engage people, to bring them in. And one of those questions would be to ask, how did Canada become a country in the first place? When you take, you learn this in high school, you learn about the Confederate fathers and John and McDonald, and then they'll talk about the railroad, and they'll talk about the industrial age, from agricultural to industrial age, into our present day. But it was omitting a very critical part of the narrative, that this country was made because of generosity of the original peoples and their nations and their territories. It wasn't through the means of warfare or battles, or taking over, or buying, for that matter. The true story is, people showed up in different territories, different places, and they asked, can we have business with you? Can we set up our trading posts? Can we set up our forts? And along the way, they said, can we live with you? So it started off by making arrangements. And that's how Canada started inviting others to say, yes, you can live with us. And there are many ways to go at it. I was talking to these young people in a school lacrosse team, and I said, you know that lacrosse game, it's based on of newcomers coming, like the Jesuits, that are seeing this game that is played on the land. It's probably around Sault Ste. Marie around that time, and the stick that they have is basically, it looks like a cross or a shaft of the Pope, what a Pope would have. So they named it lacrosse. Now, the actual name itself eludes me. But I said, this is how people settle arrangements, disputes, infringing on another hunting territory. So, in order to prevent war or conflict, they might use the game of lacrosse. It says, my community will challenge you to the game of lacrosse, so we can settle it. Who's going to get that ideal hunting grounds for the winter, or one full year cycle. There's 4 seasons, and lacrosse is it's not done in an arena the way they do it today. It was actually the open fields, all terrain, and the goalpost was like miles away, and everybody's involved. Everybody is playing, and it goes from sun up to sundown, and it's rough because sometimes you get ambushed. Sometimes they lay in hiding, waiting for you to come down that trail, and they're going to come after that ball and take it away from you, and they're going to go the opposite direction where they're going to, they're going to your goalpost so they can win the game. So I don't know if it's probably been kept in terms of who scores the most goals, and when the sun goes down, then that settles it. Who won? And then you have a big feast. They celebrate this beautiful ceremony, and everybody comes away a winner. But there is the one that won that territory. Which nation won that one? So this is just one example of using sport to create an arrangement. But we use the word treaty, but these are relationship building. And when there's a conflict, they can always return to something they know. So I know that in this topic we're going to go over is treaties, and treaties is based on moral compass. Treaties is based on your value system, and if you share a same value system, same belief systems, share the same moral compass that guides you, this is how you get along with your neighbor. So in our traditions, we have, at one time we had chaos. We were growing quite large. And because of our gift of free will, we make choices. But if you were to go and just make choices and not considering anybody else, and everybody was doing that, then it creates chaos. No harmony, no balance. And there's this is a long story, but to make the story shorter, these grandfathers were hearing the prayers, help us in our situation. So they look on the land to find who's ideal, who's the right one, so we can give them these teachings. So these 7 grandfathers found a little boy. He wasn't too young, but he was old enough to start learning, to comprehend these gifts that he's going to be given from the grandfathers. And there are many versions of it, but he was taken to the spiritual realm. He was taken to the lodge where he's going to go meet these grandfathers. Now, some say When he left, it was in 7-year increments, and he's going to meet 7 of them. So by the time he came back, learning, he was imprinted. He was taught many things. So when he came back an old man. But he went and traveled everywhere, talking about these 7 teachings and how we can all get along. And then from there became many that will teach that. So he went home, and he brought with him those teachings. He brought him many teachings back to his people. And it started with love. Love is it's all part of the spirit. Love is spirit. And creation came out of love. So that was the first one. And not really going into any order. It's just basically the other teachers had different teachings, and we assigned animals to it. So love was eagle. Eagle represents that love. But all the teachings represent all the animals. It's just that we teach it this way. So from love, you can pick his the bear. No, I'll leave the bear last. Let's talk about turtle. We are now placed on the back of a turtle, and turtle represents truth. That's a teacher of truth. So where is truth? Well, it's in your heart. The echo of your heart is a Dubway, is the echo of your heart. That's where truth is. That's where spirit is. That's the source of your connection to everything. The other teaching was beaver. A Mick, that's the one. That's wisdom. It's learning, lifelong learning. Engage in life. Learn from life. And I tried to explain this in a metaphor. Like, how does one achieve wisdom? Well, you have to work at it. You have to have life experience. It's like the snowflakes that come down from the sky, and they're floating down, and they land on a very thin layer of snow, and then this builds up. This layer builds up. It becomes thick to a point with all that knowledge that you're achieving. It now goes, poof. It condenses. It just compresses. It just comes, and that's the moment where it all comes together. There's no specific age to it. It's how much you engage in life. How much do you learn? And then hopefully you know what to do with it. That's the wisdom. So and then I look at maybe humility. My gun, the wolf, humility is to be part of a people, be part of the pack. And nobody's greater than or less than you. We're all equal in our journey. We all have responsibilities. And it's stronger in a pack than being an individual like a lone wolf. That's why they call out, oh, to say you're out there, you can come back, come be part of us, if that's your choice. But we'll always be here for you. So when you become part of the pack, you're no greater or less than that. We're all equally have responsibilities. And when you study the wolf pack, how it functions, of course there'll be alpha, but there's an alpha male, there's an alpha female. Alpha male is forging the trail. It says we go this way. So you have to trust your leader. The alpha female's inside, making sure everybody's looked after. So the little ones cubs are looked after. Every of them have a place. Then you got the younger wolves that are protectors. You got the experienced ones. They're getting a little older, so they're in the back just in case they get attacked from that place. They're covered. But I just wanted to say, from there is the value of humility. Is to say I'm grateful to be part of all this, to be part of life, to be part of each other. We are one. When we're strong together, we know we're one. So the next one I would think of is Sabe, Misabe, is what we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And that's honesty. And to be honest is to be as tall as Bigfoot, be as tall as Sabe, where that's just naturally who you are. 8, 10 feet tall. Let them know you're a straight shooter, like you just tell it the way it is. So honesty plays an important role, is to stand up in your honesty. Now I'm just thinking, I wanted to leave the bear last. Oh, respect is the bison or the buffalo, plains buffalo or the wood bison. Now that one is very important. That the one animal that gives you everything you need to sustain yourself, especially the plain nations, how they relied on that one to give every piece of itself. There's a tremendous respect. And that one is strong. That one carries a lot of responsibility. So sometimes they'll have a hump on their back. If there's a storm, they face the storm. No problem. They know what to do. They stand their ground or they walk through it. So what's important about respect is that you have to respect yourself. Like every teaching I'm going to share with you has to apply to yourself first. You got to love yourself. You got to respect yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. And that's part of the wisdom. That's part of being humility, is to balance all that. So it's very important to respect oneself, yourself, to respect others, to respect all of life around you, and respect all of creation. So the next one, I think I got it all. I think so. We be the bear. Makwa. Reason why I wanted to focus with that one last, because if all was love, and then we have this earthly experience, and we create all these other emotions, these other feelings, because we're a co-creator too. So we create the lives that we have. We create the world that we have. So the teaching there for the bear is courage. The courage that, you can do this. We build ourselves up that we have naturally that courage. Now, if you look at the teaching of a mother bear, she instinctively jump into that courage of her young cub. A strange thing come or being attacked, and she just doesn't care the size or what it is. The mother bear will always look after his young ones. We all have that spirit where we can turn that on. Because the opposite of all these positive teachings, the opposite of that is fear. So in between from love to fear is all these other teachings. And fear is the one that we have self-doubt. We have fear, we're scared, it's crippling, it disables us. In order to get out of that fear is to have courage. So every teaching I say here is the opposite. Humility is when you think you're greater than somebody else, you humiliate somebody else, make them feel small. When you have wisdom, the opposite of wisdom is ignorance. Is when you might have all the degrees and somebody says, you're very smart and all that, but if you're too egotistical, then you're not, you don't humble yourself, you can get lost. Or you act like you know something, but you really don't, but you still act that way. It's because you don't know. It's ignorance. So when you look at the other opposite, the opposite is sabe. When I say honesty, opposite is that you're hiding, you have shame, it's being deceitful, telling a lie, and you get caught out on it, you get called out on it, or you get caught in a lie, you shrink, you want to hide, you want to run away. So everything in life is the opposite. So the other one is what else did I have to do? Is did I get them all? The opposite. Well, just for the sake of I wanted to leave that eagle. The opposite of eagle is love. The opposite of love is controlling. Because love is being stingy. Love is saying, "Oh, I'm all in it, all the way." And that's how that in our language sometimes is being stingy. It's just that powerful, loving energy. Now the opposite is controlling when you're trying to hoard or you're just trying to control that energy. And that's where we get in problems. You can't interfere with people's free will. You can't put people in boxes. You can't do that. Love is encompassing. Love is everywhere. So these 7 sacred teachings is life. It's balance. And if you follow that, this is how we all get along. That's what the grandfather is saying. This is how you're going to get along with each other. You're going to get along with yourself first. Then you can get along with those around you. So we develop our value system based on that, but it's not just the 7. There's all kinds of good values in this world. And many, many peoples and many, many religions have different values. I tried to count them one time. I stopped at 75 because it doesn't end. These 7 are good to teach it. They're good to teach the 7. So this is how we enter. So if our value system are matching up with their value systems, then we have dialogue. Then we can have that open discussion. So when things go wrong, and things do go wrong, that you can trust in a mutual value system. That is our moral compass to say, let's do the right thing. And I guess the opposite of truth, because I have to do the opposite, this came to me. Truth is, of course, is being untruthful, right? Being hidden, hiding your agenda. And not act from the heart, but maybe you act from the mind or your ego. So that's where agenda comes in. You want something out of this. Because when I'm teaching this treatise later on, it was all spelled out in terms of what the Queen wanted. Queen Victoria says, you're going to do it my way. You're going to represent me, the crown. But she made a mistake. She said, when you do this, you're going to represent me and I'm the crown. But she sent out the Canadians. These are the ones that have been colonized for a generation or so in the East. And they want to make a country, but they want that authority from the Queen that says, go ahead, you can go ahead and do this, which led to the British North American Act. But she said you have to make treaties first. But they didn't listen to her. They made it the British North American Act in 1867. They didn't formalize any treaties until 1871. They're doing it backwards, but they sent Canadians to negotiate. So it's just like asking the fox to go into the hen house and say everything is going to be all right, which didn't happen. And there was an opportunity we really got to know each other, actually, since contact, and so it was like the fur trade was a mutual benefit. So there was the era of the fur trade, getting to know each other. And along the way, there was peace and friendship treaties. Along the way, it became more like written treaties. But there was a chance that there was some conflicts, but they got ironed out, and it usually got ironed out with a treaty. So when we're talking about treaties today, you know, that's where I'm going to show you my PowerPoint, if you don't mind. Do you have a question, Jody, for now? Before I show you a couple of slides?
Do I have a question?
I opened up like this.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all of these notes written down, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. I think I even called this live today something else. I think I mentioned colonization instead of reconciliation, and truly, I think it can be called whatever, because you and I agreed that this is not going to be scripted. We're just going to show up in our what you taught me today and shared with me today, which I've written down actually several times, is that I come as a body. Even though I'm here by myself as Jody Harbor, I'm doing this and creating this for many people, for the opportunity of many people, and even Grandmother's Voice, really, our community that deserves to have this knowledge and this understanding. And I just would like to acknowledge, like, I love that whole moral compass, because when we get into the spaces of I want to say mainstream or education or bureaucracy, sitting even at tables with other organizations trying to create a terms of reference, or like some kind of treaty, why we're here together. It the beginning story that you shared, it makes total sense to start with something like that. When you talked about the true story was that it was generosity. I love that. That totally touched my spirit, and I would love, like, that's something to implement into how I connect with people for the first time in a space. That is a beautiful opening. So I totally appreciate your words right now. So no, I don't have anything really to ask right now. And if I think I'll just go ahead with your PowerPoint,
Okay.
sharing that.
Do you see it?
I see it. Do you see it?
I see it.
Yeah, I think that everyone sees it.
Okay. So I usually say what I'm about to teach is two worldviews. The worldview of Indigenous people are on this side of the world. And I had this teaching with two guests today, two different groups. In the beginning, it was just spirit. It was just spirit in the beginning. And then there was this movement towards these two other circles. And these two energies are the masculine and feminine energy. And they're seen as infinite symbol. But when you look at our world in terms of its history, it's one side of the world was really feminine energy. On the other side was a lot of masculine energy. And as a historian, you look at back of our ancient civilizations, and recently, before contact with newcomers, it was the women that were the head priestess, or the women were the leaders. They were the mother clans. They were looking after they're looking after the children. They're looking after the family. They are the ones who really are in charge. They are the true leaders. And they had a very prominent role until newcomers came. And in the beginning, it was like women were the first ones. They were there signing treaties. Their signatures or their marks or their totems were women. But from that side of the world, they're not used to that. So they insist, we need a male leader. We need a Wogima. We need a fur trade captain. It has to be male. So you're taking that masculine energy and now making changes on this side of the world. And it got to a point where the government, the bureaucracy took over. And they eliminated the role of the natural leaders were our women. And in our way we look after ourselves. So it's a long time trying to get back women in their role as leadership, but we're getting there. And I had this long conversation this morning that this country needs a female leader, but that's another story, which I'll share later on. There's a way. So what you have here is on this side of the world is that George Catlin in 1832 has seen virgin land. Look at all this space. And he conveys, this is wide open virgin land. This is like paradise, opportunity. So they call it a new world because they represent, they say, the old world. So what they're capturing was not empty spaces. These are territories of many nations. I just want to quote the one that the commissioner, the retired commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation, but he retired as a senator. He was one of the first Aboriginal judge in this country, Manitoba especially. And he's captured with these words to convey this. My ancestors signed treaty in order to build a nation with you. Your ancestors signed treaty in order to build a nation without us. And you'll see that in my timeline. There is a definite split. But we were at one time so close together that we were touching, our timeline was just close like a wampum belt, which I'll talk about later. This treaty medallion, which I have a replica of, is a symbol of what was going on when it came to the development of Canada. And this was given to all the chiefs that signed that treaty, Treaty 1 to 11. So they'll just stamp, like I say, Indian treaty number, they'll leave it blank, but they'll stamp the treaty area that they go to. So if it's Treaty 3 or Treaty 4, they'll put 4. And there's a story between all of this in terms of, but the key thing that I wanted to share with you as a symbol of this relationship, they made an agreement to become one. And that's what treaties is a relationship to become one. So it's like that, we'll travel down this river together. We won't interfere with you, you won't interfere with us. We become one as we travel down this river together, as we country together. The sun shines and the grass grows and the water flows, this will be forever. So those are the symbols that are being captured, but you see here, there's a definite two worldviews, how they see their relationship with Mother Earth. So one might say, oh, it's meant to be dominated. Others will say, no, that's our mother. She looks after us. And that's going to always be the conflict. Since that time to even to this day, it's about who possesses the land. Who's the true owners of that land? It's all played out in our court systems. They're always going to argue about that. So like I said, it's an indigenous worldview. We're all part of everything. Maybe in a corporate, institutional, or governmental worldview, it's just that man's on top of a hierarchy. So they make laws and regulations and such. So in this day and age, though, you're like anything else, it merges together. So you're going to see more and more people are saying, actually, I am part of this world. I'm part of Mother Earth. So these change within time. So things are being challenged, the old ways. What's important to understand, and you heard my origin stories, Jody, where it's diversity. The Creator made a beautiful place for all life. And even the earth has its own soul, it has its own spirit. But there's spirit in everything. And that the four that came down were able to populate this garden, Manitugitigan, so that each will grow in their areas, in their sacred areas. And there'll be many, many peoples, there'll be many, many tribes, there'll be many, many countries, nations. Then one day we all get together and so celebrate our diversity but not to focus on our differences, not to dominate, not to interfere, not to take over, not to change anybody. So those things played out in recent history. But we are at the stage again right now in the seventh fire, basically saying, did you learn anything from this experience? Should we all go back and look after Mother Earth because she's dying? Or we just continue on with materialism and greed? Anyway, that's another subject for another day. But I'd like to point out that we call our place Turtle Island, and many tribes, many language groups, nations had similar stories, and they vary, and some might not even be the same. But all origin stories are truthful. Nobody can lay claim that mine is accurate and yours is wrong. That's practicing differences, not appreciating each story that you hear from others, and share your story too. What's important to understand when you look at this is indigenous languages. So in our origin stories, it might have started with one, then became many. So we all have our places. We all have our different regions. We all have our territories. We have this connection to Mother Earth. We have our connections to the land. Land is our identity. Our language is our identity. Our way of life, how we govern ourselves, our stories, our cultures, it's all our identity. And it's diversity. It's good to not have all one same trees or one set of plants or one set of everything, anything for that matter. It's good to have a lot of color. Anyway, I brought this up because there'll be conflicts, but we're not described as all of us being warlike and we're all at each other's throats. Like I said earlier, there are ways to settle our grievances, and it's a form of treaties, but treaties come in many forms. And I described the lacrosse. There could be other games. It could be a leg race, or who knows. But the thing is that we're all neighbors, and we all believe that we're connected, because our stories are so similar with each other. And we call it Turtle Island, so that's another story. So I just want to bring this map up because this is just as diverse as any other continent on Earth. But unfortunately, you can hear, unfortunately, there's a lot of warfare. And treaties that come out of warfare are generally because somebody lost. Now, the treaties that are made on Turtle Island is mutually beneficial, but there comes responsibilities attached to it. So we have our in Anishinaabe, we have our ways how we get along with each other and our neighbors. We had the 7 sacred teachings to get along with each other. What about our neighbors? So these sacred laws is how we interact with our neighbors. Manatu Gitigan, which I said, is that we all agree this is the Creator's garden. We all agree that Aki, she's our mother, Nima Aki, or our grandmother, she looks after us. We're all part of her. This is her that we are enjoying our lives with. Not only us, but the animal world, the rock world, the plant world, and so forth. We're all part of this. That when we interact with each other, we do so with a kind heart, a compassionate heart, kindness, because that's where the source of everything is. That's the Gishi Manatu, the creator of everything, is in us, inside. So when you give your word, and may your words be soft, may your words be kind, because it creates action, it vibrates out. The universe will respond to your words. So your word is sacred. So when you give a promise and give an oath, and you say it, it becomes sacred, it becomes powerful. So be careful what you say. And the earth is bountiful. There's plenty. Even today, there should not be any hunger and famine in this world. There is plenty to share. If we protect our water, we protect our food source, there is plenty to share in this world, but it ended up being a small percentage are benefiting. And there are many that are not. Everything in moderation is to remind us you don't hoard, you don't take more than you need. Just make sure, just be modest, just be generous for others. And then you just take what you need. If we all follow that, there's plenty for everyone. And everyone is equal. Nobody's greater than, nobody's better than. You're not less than anybody. Under all of creation, we're all part of all this. We're one. And these help guide our ancestors when they made treaties with others. So when it comes to treaty making, it existed long before Europeans ever arrived. And they have learned our way of doing it. So it sets up a set of process of protocols and ceremonies, which includes gift giving, feast, it's a celebration, getting to know each other. So the time is spent considering your treaty partner, their values, their wants, their needs, their understanding of what this relationship's going to be, and also to talk about responsibility for this treaty, this relationship. That you just don't make it once, that you got to renew it every year. You got to bind it together. The binding laws is our pipe. Pipe is the most common thing to bind all this with many nations throughout Turtle Island. So that is one party sitting with another party, and when they agree, they smoke their pipe, they ask all the Croatians to support into this decision. So that's why it becomes a binding law. Pagan. So like I said again, it's the sacred of the pipe. Only truth must be spoken. So you can't go there and be deceitful because you're asking Creator. Creator knows your heart, knows my heart. And you have to be truthful what you're putting together. So I guess movies will say, oh, that's a peace pipe. And well, yeah, this is how you maintain peace. This is how you have peace. Peace of mind, peace is the Creator. So go easy win. Go easy win. No, I'm not saying it right. It's a long day. Is a negotiation agreement with mutual responsibilities, mutual obligations, helping each other, and rights above those that each currently possess. So we become one. There's benefits. You have something, we have something, but together we make great things happen. Pintigan is a rite of passage that says, I want to go through your territory on safe passage. If you go to another territory and you collected fish for yourself and your family, you leave some on the shore with some tobacco and a gift because you took it out of that territory. That's how you respect. That's how it's done. So now you go back home. So that's free passage. So it's also the means to say, I want to live with you. Can I live here for one winter, or can I just permanently stay with you? So that arrangement is the original stewards of the land. Is that you approach them? You can't assume it's yours. It's not yours. The Creator gave gifts to everyone, but they all have their places. Oh, this is an old one. I'll leave this here, I think, because I put on the wrong one. Because I'll go into talking about the other side of the world, the doctrine of discovery. You got to know these things too, what goes on the other side of the world. But I do have one map that I'm going to share with. They made all these laws that says, yeah, we can take somebody else's land. This is how Canada's name got. Jacques Cartier was a discoverer, was going and found a settlement just ahead. He asked his four youth, hey, what do you call your place up ahead? Of course, they don't understand French and Iroquois. Oh, Canada. So they put it, Jacques Cartier put it in his journal, reported back to the King of France. It says, "Where did you go?" "I went to Canada." So the name stuck. But ain't it marvelous that our country is in an indigenous description and we're called the village? Based on our value system, a shared value systems, we grow as a village. We enrich because we invite others to live with you. We have intermarriage. We grow. There's such diversity within that growth. And Canada is still a global, invited the world, so we're kind of like the global village. We represent the world, but it's based on the value systems of Indigenous people and their generosity. So this one last thing, let me see. And that's the tool. Wampum belt was played an important symbol of two, like your ship and our canoe will travel down this river together. And there's one demonstrated by Jody. I have a little tiny one. I don't know if you see that. It's over here. Not as big as Jody, but I do have another one over there. Okay. But basically, it's two paths, one journey. You have your own laws and customs. We have our own laws and customs. We don't interfere with you. Don't interfere with us. But let's travel together. See where this goes. And those words are ancient. As long as the sun shines upon this earth, this is how long our agreement will stand. Second, as long as the water still flows. And third, as long as the grass grows green at a certain time of the year. Now we have symbolized this agreement and shall be binding forever as long as Mother Earth is still in motion. So this is not a document that we're forgotten in the past. We benefit from this arrangement. Our ancestors made it together. We are still holders of this treaty. And that's Canada's story. And there has been super agreements, super treaties. In 1701, the Great Peace of Montreal, 39 First Nations got together and says, hey, look, let's don't make treaties all the time. Why wouldn't we make a super treaty so all passages on lakes and rivers and land that you're able to participate in this mutual benefit called the fur trade. So let's forego any of these tensions and, let's make a super treaty so we're all safe. We're all benefiting. 1701 Canada's first constitution. It didn't start in 1867. It started with the original peoples that were living here. So you got the French showing up, then later the English, and there was many other nations from Europe. But you had these 39 First Nations that says, let's make this work. This is that's flawed a little bit too. Another wampum belt, the Treaty of Niagara, 1764, the British Anishinaabe Treaty Alliance. They heard the words of what King George has to say because he made a mistake. He just think he can just take over all the French forts and then forego all the arrangements. And then the Anishinaabe Confederacy said, let's push the English back into the sea. So they burned down 7 forts, seized to many others. But they said, oh gosh, we're out of the business. All that wealth, we don't have access anymore. So they sent out a royal proclamation in 1763. They gathered at Niagara and they made this agreement, the super treaty. This precursor to all the treaties. This is the grandfather. This is how it's supposed to be set up. Must be done in a public place. Everybody has to know about it. They mutually agree. There has to be compensation. And you must abide what you agreed to. So this became the first of written treaties. Prior to that, it was mostly peace and friendship. But now, the English likes everything on record. And the other way the English likes it on record is they capture it on medallions, and it says, happy while united, 1764. This played a central role in defending Canada later on. because we're allies. We're not British subjects. So if you get attacked, we'll come and defend you. If we get attacked, you come and support us. And Canada has been, I'll say Canada, but it was the British North American territory. But the British, the Americans, United States of America, I don't know how many times, but they tried to take over British territories 4 times. They tried to annex land for themselves. That's the Americans. And if it wasn't for the allies of all these warrior societies from all the way from the east, the 5 nations, the Anishinaabe Confederacy, the Métis, and many other nations that were involved. Going west, it was the Saulteaux, it was the Bloods, the Pagans, and the Blackfoots, and Dakota. All these are warrior societies. And they created an invisible barrier. They call it a medicine line. Later on, they made treaties to fortify that, to solidify that. The Jay Treaty, Oregon Treaty, and so forth. But who defended those lives were these lines were warrior societies. If that didn't happen, there's no Canada. It would have been the United States of America throughout North America. Because we are allies. And that's the true history of Canada. And when they made treaties, they were making treaties with allies. They were making treaties with friends. And then you got these colonies. We're worried that the United States is going to do it again. They just bought Alaska from the Russians, and they're now approaching our First Nations in Rupert's Land. And basically, let's try to make a treaty with them. But the treaty they did in the south of us, the Americans broke every treaty. There was 50 treaties. All they just wanted to do is an excuse to round up all the Indians and put them on reservations. You can't do that with the warrior societies up north. But these small little colonies didn't have an army. British didn't have a large army. They relied on its allies. So now they have a problem. They needed to be confederated from coast to coast. British Columbia is independent colony, but they said if you build us a railroad in 10 years, we'll join. So they went to see Queen Victoria, and he says, we would like to be a country. Can you give us those lands? Sorry, said Queen Victoria, said to the Canadians. That may be an area on British North America, but the Indians have title to the land. We don't have any treaties with the tribes, nations who inhabit it. You must obtain their consent. So anyway, it's all there in the original British and North American Act of the Queen's orders. And she said, you'll do it under my way as the crown. But like I said earlier, they put it in the wrong hands to do this work. They gave it to the Canadians that had their own agenda. But if you look at this honor of the crown that's played out in the court system, it is about the crown, honor of the crown. I mandate the treaties will be negotiated in my name under my supervision for the sole purpose of immigration and settlement. It didn't talk about the wealth of the land. Compensation must be paid. Treaties will be just and equitable. So I'm going to leave with this one slide. I usually get deeper into it. Why can't I just give it away? You can't give it away because it wasn't yours in the first place. The indigenous people were never conquered. But what's important is trying to build a country from coast to coast to coast. So now you see, they couldn't go over here to start. They wanted Treaty 1 to be what we call present day Ontario. The Ojibwe were smart. They says, well, think about it. No need to rush. So they went to the next place. They made Treaty 1 at Lower Fort Garry, and then they got Treaty 2 within a few weeks because it was supposed to be one big super treaty, but we're too large. So they split it in half, Treaty 1 and 2. I'm Treaty 2 myself. They went back to Treaty 3. By now, they got smart because the first 2 treaties was just only basically bare minimum. Can we live with you? We'll give you some of these things. But it has no mention about the wealth of the land, the minerals, the trees, and so forth. So it's peace and friendship. Now in Treaty 3, they got smart. They're saying, "Oh, now we gotta put this stuff in there," and it became now we have to build that railroad. So we gotta go back to Treaty 4. But then he said, "What about the whole north?" Then we'll go Treaty 5. It kind of went that way because they were playing around with the map. It says we still got to build that railroad. So in a way, it ended up being the whole country will be under a treaty one day. The ones that were left out was on the West Coast because they choose not to, but they now have to make it because it's not their land. So you had these modern treaties like the James Bay Cree and Inuit, and they made these modern treaties. The third territory is a Nunavut treaty. Is basically the third territory. We'll manage the north together. But anywhere you see a place that don't have treaties, they're now negotiating. So I'm going to leave it as that. I think I have the Indian Act here, so that gives me into a different other story. So how do we get out? Maybe you do it on your end, Jody. There we go. So there you have it. I went a little longer than usual.
Wow. Well, that's okay. That's okay. What I love about all of this is that, well, I mean, I'm so totally intrigued and captivated by the learning because it's every person that delivers it, you learn it or you pick up, something different. That's, and even if it was the same person delivering it, it's always, it just comes out differently, and different perspectives is awesome. And there was so much in everything that you shared that resonated. But for me today, the message was really that generosity, the essence and morals of Indigenous people who steward and lived and nurtured this land before it became, a country, or before the visitors came, is what is missing in our culture. And if we look at the thousands of years that, different religions were, brought and really made, that's how people, probably looked at where our morals came from, was this story from all of these different religions. But we're in a land that had their own belief system, and that had their own way of being in relationship with each other and with the land. And I believe, I remember hearing this over and over from so many elders, that we're in a really beautiful time, that Indigenous people get to tell their stories, so to share with the people, so that we can bring healing. And we're not forceful people. I am sometimes. I am like, come on, we've already tried all this other stuff. Why not this? Why not connect to the land? If there's one thing that could create oneness, could it be that connection to the land that will bring us together for healing, for our, the coming faces and our universe. And so thank you so much. Nyawa Goa Chimagwich. I really enjoy our relationship. I really enjoy everything that is, the reciprocity, everything that, we're bringing to this. And I hope that our viewers and the people that, are watching this appreciate it too. I know we have a couple of messages in here from some of our viewers, and it looks like Ethan says he enjoyed watching one of your videos, and then also, just mentioning, yes, Ethan, an Indigenous female prime minister would be cool. And it's not going to be me, but boy, would that be fun. And then, Jen, thanks. You're an amazing sister and support. Appreciate that so much. And Jeanette, for being here. Before we go, I would like to share some pretty exciting news. I will share This is White Spotted Horse. This is his website. You can find out more of what he does there as well. On June 21st, I'm super excited to share that that he'll be here with us in the Halton region and in Oakville for our National Indigenous Peoples Day event. And he'll be one of our speakers. And the day is, we're planning the day right now. It's super exciting. I'm getting, performers and speakers and elders that want to come and share. So, and there'll be vendors and singers and also, it's called Universal Connection. And so we have other multicultural groups and community members that want to come and perform with us, celebrate us with us, and be with us for this day. So watch for that information, because it's really, we have no control, especially when you're, spirit and it's time and all of the energies come together. It's really beautiful how it starts to manifest and create something when you don't give it those limitations. And we put that, the grandmas named it Universal Connection, and it just started to become that. So it's a really an honor to be guided by and share knowledge shared and transferred by you, White Spotted Horse. And I really truly appreciate this opportunity to support you and walk together on this journey of communicating and building relationships.
No, I'll just say we do this in all our ceremony to remind us of our journey, but we're not alone. Agana Danaway Maganak, all my relations. Miigwech.
Yawa.